thing called best practices. And, and how about you follow them? And some people feel compelled to do that just because they're, I don't know, good people, better educators, more compassionate, care about human and civil rights, that kind of thing.
So what are some good resources for parents whose children might have just come out to them, might be wrestling with their gender identity or their gender expression? Where are some good places that parents can go to get more information?
So we are one national organization that, is very much there for you and to answer your questions and your concerns and help you even find some more regional resources. So you can go to our website at www.transyouthequality.org. And if you are looking for legal resources or questions, we do have a legal board as well, and we can answer a lot of those questions. But if you can also go to the GLAD organization, which is out of Boston and covers New England, but also gets involved in Supreme Court cases and national cases, and that's GLAD in Boston for legal specific questions. The Transgender Law Center is an excellent resource. The ACLU really wants to hear from parents that have had issues. Yeah, those are, if you go to the ACLU, you can really get some good advice about legal rights for your child and how to prepare yourself and be their advocate, and how to encourage your older youth to become self-advocates. But also, it's their legal rights, but if you look online at the ACLU under transgender rights or youth rights, they go from everything about how to protest safely to how to know all your rights in your school, advocating for your medical rights. So I think the ACLU has really, stood up for transgender issues. So those are great resources for you. I think a lot of states have local PFLAG support groups. And so it's PFLAG. And some of them are just LGB or LGBT. And so sometimes parents will feel like, I'm the only parent there with a trans child. But there are, in some states, PFLAG groups that are trans specific. So you can ask for that. You can call PFLAG and ask if they have one that is for trans parents. And you can call your local LGBT statewide groups in your state and ask them where the closest trans-specific youth organization might be. There's more and more, they're not in every state. But what we do find in a lot of states, by the way, that I want to mention to you, because we do a lot of medical advocacy work and our board is also very medical oriented. So I want to say that there are excellent gender centers in almost every state now. Certainly in every region, there are almost every children's hospital has a gender clinic, and they have one at the Chicago Children's Hospital. So that that you might have to drive, 10 minutes, or you might have to drive 3, 4, 5 hours, but transgender youth have often been underserved around the country, and their parents have learned to really have to go out of their way for great resources. But I would say that, anywhere from Yale and at Brown, at Harvard, at Duke, at UCLA, at all of those type of university medical children's centers, they have gender clinics. Just fantastic, often associated with great academic centers. There is more help. I mean, there was a time when, families couldn't get help at all, or had to, be affluent enough, let's say, and resourceful enough to fly into the Boston Children's Hospital, because that's where it all began. Now a lot of them go to Hasbro at Brown University Children's Hospital. They still fly in. So I think that, it's really hard for families that tell us, well, we don't even have the gas money to get there. And you have to be sensitive to helping them find clinics that are near them. And sometimes it's going to take a drive, but it's getting better. And almost every state, like I said, has good clinics. And when your child is expressing that they are of a different gender, that, and that they are suffering from body dysphoria, then a very large, like a discomfort and a very intense discomfort with their body, they absolutely have a medical condition and they need to be seen by a gender expert. And so I really encourage parents, when your children are speaking that way, that would be very different than a child that might be just maybe gender nonconforming, or exploring their gender, or saying that, oh, I don't believe in the gender construct, or I want to, I'm boy, I'm girl, but I love my body, or I like my body. I'm not having trouble with my body. That's a different type of expression. And those kids really have always existed, right? And we used to years ago call them, what were some of the terms that we used for them? Androgynous, or so the kids like that have always existed and need a lot of support. But if your child is expressing, I am, let's say if they were born biologically female and they're saying, no, I am a boy, and they could be saying that at 2, 3, 4, and all the way up, maybe not until they're teenagers when they're ready to come out to you. But when they are talking in those type of terms, and depression or anxiety or anything like that is setting in around it, and fears, and that, then you really have to make sure to get your child to a gender clinic.
Well, before we wrap up, is there anything else you'd like our listeners to know?
Well, I don't know. I think that if you can, if you reach out, that, or get on our Facebook page and follow what we're doing at Trans Youth Equality Foundation. We're on Facebook and Tumblr and everywhere, and you find other organizations that are, doing positive, affirming work. I would just, really follow that and do everything you can to think about, how you can help your child, how you can best protect them, how you can help them to learn to advocate for themselves, as they get a little older, and how you can help them navigate within the family so that other family members can support them as well, and how you might have to lose some friends along the way. Some people even lose relatives along the way who just don't come around, and that are somehow harming the child. And you just have to make sure that people understand. There are a lot of great books on our website. They have to be read by at least 2 board members and approved before they can go on the website. So that they're really helpful. And I hope if there's any providers listening or any educators, that they'll get on our site as well. And you'll see there are sections just for providers and educators with great book suggestions and conferences that can be attended. And I would find out where the conferences are that can teach parents of transgender children everything from A to Z and what you need to know to get that support. And I would remember that it is stressful, and that it is, it's time for you to practice self-care as well and take care of yourself, and know that as tough as this journey is, when you discover that you have a trans child, and especially if you have to go through medical procedures and get medical care, as tough as that is, that it's also a beautiful journey, and not to lose sight of that, because it's a beautiful journey to be on that journey with your child, a journey of acceptance and reliability and trust, and, guiding your child and protecting them and teaching them what authentic love is. I mean, there's something beautiful about that. And they'll always remember that you were there for them, and it'll give them a lot of inner strength. There's no evidence of children that after puberty that change their mind somehow. If they are transgender, they don't suddenly become not transgender. And, there's whatever people do tell you, there is no evidence of that. And, so the best thing to do is just support your child and help them to come out as safely as they can. And to remember that if you look at the American Pediatric Endocrine Society or the American Psychological Association or the pediatric societies, they all say the same thing. The mental health issues that transgender children experience is from rejection from their peers, from discrimination. It is not inherent in transgender children that they have mental illness. And of course, in fact, many don't, especially when they've gotten support. But every child is different and every child's ability to deal with anxiety is different. And it's really a significant, important thing to remember that when you look at people that are in the field in academia, that study this, that collect data, that are the members of those medical societies and psychological associations, that it says in the DSM that the only reason why transgender children suffer from mental illness and have that kind of deep pain and higher suicide rates and 3 times as much depression as the non-transgender, their non-transgender peers, is because of discrimination. And it actually says that in the DSM. So we want to keep that in mind. And, I'd like to see more doctors get out and get more politically involved and take some time to just speak up and speak out more for transgender children. And because I find it so funny, and especially I've thought about this a lot as a parent of a transgender child, is that, we teach our children, most decent people teach their children to not make fun. I mean, it's a pretty cruel world out there, but to not make fun of kids when they have all kinds of medical conditions. And yet we try to not talk too much about the medical part of this situation. And yet children somehow feel that they can make fun of and be verbally abusive and physically abusive to transgender children. Like, because transgender children in some cultures and some societies and some towns and some schools just are somehow, thought of as less than. And, we need to fight that. And I think it's so cruel to think that you can imagine as a parent how I felt that for my child to be, so neglected at school and abused and so made fun of by his peers that would not have ever been allowed if he had diabetes or another endocrine condition, or heart or cancer or any kind of medical condition. So and now my child, I'm happy to say, is, we took him out of that school. We sued the school. We moved to an area that was very LGBT supportive in general, which always trickles down, to the schools and to the children in the community. And we just were able to, in a great position to be able to do that. Not everybody's in that position, but we've helped other parents move and start a new life for when that is appropriate and possible. And and just start over. And my child just wound up having a great life. And it's not easy to be trans, but, over time things got better and better. Medical insurance started covering medical needs and surgeries, and schools started being more accepting. And, he's just a very happy person who loves life and is in college and doing well and has a lot of friends. And, he's lucky, and a lot of kids aren't quite that lucky. And, please just do everything you can to reach out and start, if you have to, start with your LGBT organizations and then ask them where to go from there. And we belong to a consortium of gender therapists and counselors, and we can usually find somebody great in any area with a little bit of work. So definitely feel free to contact us anytime.
Our theme music is called Sweeter Vermouth and was composed by Kevin MacLeod of Incompetech.com. It is licensed under Creative Commons by Attribution 3.0 license. Our logo was created by Matthew Weflin, expressly for Two Broads Talking Politics, and is copyright 2017. You can contact us at twobroadstalkingpolitics@gmail.com or at twobroadstalk on Twitter. Our podcast can be found on iTunes, Stitcher, Google Play, and TuneIn. Please let us know if you have any trouble finding us.